Last night, Sarah and I took our children to a magical light show at Patriot Place for a Hanukkah treat. Not surprisingly, most of the scenery was seasonal. It was not Jewish. And our children naively imagined that they were seeing as being Jewish. They saw a gingerbread house, and my son Ezra said, "Oh, look, a shul." When the elves were fighting with each other, they said, "Oh, look, Chashmonaim." And in the scene with camels, they imagined it being Rivka on feeding the camels by the well. But the kids felt that this show was not for them. That as Jews living in America at this time of year, they were outsiders to the mainstream culture. That identity is represented quite well by Yosef in our Parsha this week. Consider the situation. It's the second visit of the brothers to Yosef, and Yosef, who is the second in command in Egypt, prepares a royal banquet for them to join. But the setup for the banquet is quite peculiar. The pasuk tells us Vayasimu lo levado v'lahem levadam. That Yosef instructs his servants to set up one table for himself and one table for the brothers, ulemitzrayim ha'ochlim ito levadam, and a third table for the Egyptians who are joining them for this banquet. Instead of a royal dining room with a single table combining everyone present, there are three parts. And it's sort of a comical situation. We can understand very well why the brothers would not want to eat with the Egyptians. They had their own tradition of eating food. We already know from the times of Noach that there are things that are tameh and things that are tahor. They would maybe say a bracha or some blessing before or after the food. The Egyptians too are understandable why they would refuse to eat with the Hebrews. Because the Hebrews, as we know, would eat meat, the sheep and the goats, and that was a deity for the Egyptians, so their culinary cultures were opposed and they could not have a shared table. But the humor of the situation comes to the fore with that special table for Yosef all by himself. And here the joke is bitter indeed, because Yosef is at once an incredible insider to the community of the Egyptians. He rose from nothing to everything in a flash and has incredible power and authority, and nevertheless, he still is considered to be a foreigner, somebody who cannot sit together with the Egyptians. His Egyptian subjects, his subordinates, his employees who will obey him and flatter him, they will not eat with him because they consider him to be a Hebrew, to be a to'eva, the pasuk says, an abomination. Even Yosef, who changes his name to an Egyptian one, he dresses in Egyptian clothing. He is a financier who has succeeded to the greatest measure possible in the Egyptian economy. He's a successful assimilationalist, and nevertheless, he's a pitiful failure because even with all that money and all that influence, the non-Jews won't break bread with him. We see Yosef here as being a symbol for a Jew living in Galut, who has made it in many ways, who has integrated and acculturated, but nevertheless still feels like an outsider, still feels othered. And in some ways, this is unfortunate that Jews cannot be better accepted and appreciated, and in some ways it's a blessing to be able to fortify our identity and to appreciate that even though we live in a place of great religious freedom here in America, it's important sometimes to have a reminder this time of year that fundamentally we don't belong here. that our identity can only be at home in a place like Eretz Yisrael, where the light show would be exclusively about scenes from the Torah and from the Hanukkah narrative. With that, I'll wish everyone a wonderful day.